So I'm a product director at a business-to-business publishing house, and today I'm going to be giving you our story of Diversifying as a free business publication. So maybe a bit of a different kind of approach, and hopefully it'll spark some ideas and ways of thinking for you. So B2B, when I say that, just to be clear, I mean industry-focused information, news for a professional audience. B2B, like the rest of publishing's gone through a bit of a storm during the pandemic. It's been a testing time for many of us. And this is where diversifying and finding new revenue streams can really come in handy, particularly in times of uncertainty. Doesn't exactly seem like the economic uncertainty is going away. So there's also a lot of changes happening in user behavior and technology, and where a lot of these present challenges for people in the publishers in the business-to-business space, those same changes can provide opportunity. So we have a couple of titles that focus on the property industry. Today I'm going to be focusing on Place Northwest. So Place Northwest publishes news for the real estate industry in the Northwest, so across Manchester, Liverpool, Lancashire, Cumbria, North Wales, and if anyone's been up to Manchester recently, you'll know that the Manchester property scene, there's a hell of a lot going on, because you can see it in the form of the skyscrapers and the cranes everywhere. There's an awful lot of investment going into it. And we write for property professionals, so that might include property developers, asset managers, surveyors, architects, banks, lawyers, construction firms, local authorities, the whole sort of industry. We're also entirely online, and as I said, we're free, completely free to access, which differentiates us from I think all of the other publishers in this space. And we do daily newsletters, weekly newsletters, and you can access them and access full articles entirely for free. This was in part because we launched in 2007, and we actually started with a subscription wall, but then very quickly the wheels came off the economy, and our founder decided to go free and build up readers. And as the years went on, we realized that it was actually quite a sustainable business model, and we could make it work. So we built up 300,000 unique readers a month, and I think that's similar, and in most cases more than a lot of the sort of national publishers in this space, in part a benefit of being free. But with being free, our revenue has to come from elsewhere. So for much of our history, that's come from events. For much of our history, that's come from advertising in the form of direct sold adverts. And around 12 years ago, we started on events, and that quickly became a very significant part of our revenue and a strong part of our brand as well. So we do, Place Northwest does about 30 conferences and networking events in a year, and we make our revenue through sponsorships and exhibition stands and ticket sales. Just last week, we held a dinner for 750 property professionals in Manchester. It's a pretty unique event, I think, in the property calendar. There's no awards or formalities. We just managed to get 750 people in a room purely for meeting up, and they'll pay £200 a ticket for that. They trust us to bring the right people to the room, and it always sells out 6 months in advance, and sponsorship sells out a year in advance as well. So we're well known for that event now, and for many of our conferences, and they're a great touch point for readers and a great chance for us to be, a kind of tangible brand. And that sort of advertising and events balance worked well for us for a number of years. But as we've grown, and particularly over the pandemic, we've created a number of alternative income streams. There's also a general trend of ad revenues falling across media, advertising spends being more widely distributed, especially with social media and Google ads, so it's becoming riskier and riskier to rely on advertising. And of course, the pandemic made us take another look at being so heavily based on events because we couldn't do any. So yeah, we had a bit of a challenge on our hands, and we got creative with it. And we actually did have a good pandemic. We managed to make virtual events work well. We found this nifty system that really helped. I might have told some of you about this before, but through this we managed to retain all our sponsors. We managed to get people buying tickets to join these events. People told us that what they were really lacking was, during the pandemic, was opportunities to meet people, and meet people in a kind of natural way, not having to prearrange meetings and get people to agree to those. So this was an absolute godsend. It's a platform called Remo, by the way, if anyone's interested. It was actually built as a hybrid working platform before the pandemic, for remote companies to come and have a place where they could just sort of meet. So how it works is you've got this sort of layout of tables, and then you can see who's on the tables. You can click on those little icons and see who's there, join a table, and it just pops up with a little video call. It's quite neat. We don't use it for remote work, but I can see it would work for that. But we also used the pandemic as a time to build up and test out a number of other revenue streams as well. So just a little bit about the benefits of doing this. I think we've heard some of it today, but so it's of course a great way of reducing your risk by spreading your income, but it's also a great way of reaching new groups of people that you might not have been able to reach before. It can be great for gathering data, and then you might be able to build something else around that data. And just a good way to engage with readers, and another sort of touch point to build up a community. The more you're doing and the more you're offering people a chance to kind of engage with each other and with the business, the more you kind of create that community. And it's also just more interesting for everyone involved, I think, to be working on lots of different types of products and revenue streams. So when we think about how to diversify, it's all around leveraging our professional readership, and not being subscription focused has allowed us to focus more on our position between our professional property readers and the property companies that want to get in front of them. So for us, it's all about thinking creatively about how we can leverage that position. And we have a database and a reach that is very valuable for businesses in property, where their business is all based around relationships and generating leads. So it's thinking, how can we make that work more for us? Where can we monetize it? What are the byproducts are there of what we're doing that we can then monetize in some way? And we know the industry that we serve very well, so we know what their needs are, and we know how to fill them. So I think that's key, and really understanding your readership and your clients and what's vital to them. And Place Northwest as well is a very small team, just 15 people. So whatever we do, it needs to be time efficient and cost effective, and high impact. So missed a bit there. There we go. So in terms of finding these new opportunities, some places to start. So pinpointing the core elements of your brand and your position. So for us, that was that professional readership and having real sort of reader loyalty and reach. And communicating with customers, knowing them inside out. What do the different groups need, and how can you potentially match up those needs? Looking at your data, as been said before, and digging into where the demand is, and is there inferences you can make on the data about what's popular and what's really gaining traction, where there's sort of challenges that you might be able to work more on or leverage in that way. And as I said before, byproducts. So are there byproducts of the main focus of your business? whether that be in the data that you're gathering or market trends that you might be uncovering, and can you monetize those? So for us, we've gone from generating our revenue through just events and advertising, and it was very, very heavily on the event side, about 80%, to a whole suite of options, and this isn't all of them. And we're tapping into new budgets there. So traditionally we've relied on marketing budgets, which can often be a little bit tricky because they're often squeezed first in times of uncertainty. But now we're tapping into different budgets like training budgets, recruitment budgets, business development budgets, and we've developed platforms and services that kind of tap into those. And I won't go into detail on all of them because there's a lot, but there's a recruitment board, as with BMJ. There's market research reports we do now. There's specific newsletters on specific topics that can be sponsored. We also have a thought leadership platform called Insight, where companies pay to be an exclusive content partner on a particular topic. And this really helps clients to get their messaging out regularly and to be in that position that a lot of businesses want to be, which is to be the go-to business for X service or sector, whether that be planning or affordable housing, sustainability. It's useful for readers to get that kind of information. It's a microphone for businesses. And we've had feedback from clients about getting direct phone calls from readers asking for more advice once they've read these articles. So, but a lot of it takes, with all these products as well, a careful balance when you're in the publishing world of your commercial goals and your editorial standards. And it takes quite a lot of honest conversations with clients about the content needs to be of a certain quality. And you need to be able to agree with them on that in advance, and make sure as well, of course, that they're in an appropriate position to be acting as expert in that field. But articles like this, published through the platform, I think this one had 6,000 reads just on one article for a regional B2B publication is pretty good. We also found quite a few clients that would say they didn't have the resource or the time to be working on content themselves like this, or to be producing advertising, or any of the kind of artwork and content that might be part of what they're buying from us. And we thought, well, we've got a team of writers, and we've got a production team that have design skills. So we have begun offering those as services as well. So it's a pretty good position to be in, because it means that we can now access companies that this was a barrier for. We can now tap into their budgets because we can be a one-stop shop for their property marketing. So not only can you come to us with what you want to get out of your sort of marketing messaging, we can deliver it for you. And that's been working very, very effectively. And particularly helped us with getting to smaller companies. And it also makes sense because we know we have the sort of inside knowledge of what really works. We know which ads do best. We know which articles are chiming, what topics are chiming with readers, what timings are good to look at to hook certain messages around. So it makes sense, and it gets us working with a bigger range of firms. Podcasts. So we were speaking with clients during the pandemic, and we sent out a reader survey. We got on the phone to many of them, and a lot of them were saying they were really finding it difficult to cut through and get their messages out and reach new people and sort of show off their expertise. So we'd been looking into podcasts for a while, and at the same time as creating new content, it of course helps readers to kind of continue learning, and it's a way to give businesses a voice. So the way we've done podcasts is different, I think, to the usual model. We're a small team, so rather than kind of front load a lot of risk and resource and time in creating a long series that in the hope that someone's going to sponsor it, which is how they're usually done, we speak to businesses about specific topics that they want to be that they want to discuss and they want to be aligned with. And if we think it has promise, then we will build a podcast around that. And, the client often gets a chance to speak if they're in a position that's right for it. We brainstorm together about who's best to speak on it. And this way we reduce the risk of spending a lot of time and resource on something that then doesn't end up being profitable. And the sponsor gets to have their brand on something that directly aligns to their business rather than sponsoring a series which none of the episodes might really relate to what they do. It was mainly a pandemic strategy, but it's been successful. We've done just under 90 podcasts in 2 years. We're getting between 150 and 1,000 listens for a podcast, which I think if you're in the B2C world, you'd think was low, but for our clients, it's mainly about the type of people that are listening and the quality of those listeners rather than the sheer numbers, being able to get into the ears of people that are really valuable to them. So we've had good feedback on that. We have since produced some series now that we've got more of a following and a sort of we've secured our position in this and we know we can make revenue from it. So we did a series last year on COP26. This year we've done a masterclass series, so sort of how-tos on various topics within property, how to retrofit a listed building, things like that. And they're relatively quick and easy to produce. We have an in-house production team that does it, and we get someone from editorial to host, and then we leverage our network to get some really interesting speakers. Where possible, we'll do them in person, but just because you get a good flow of conversation. But we also use this platform called Zencaster, which if you're looking to get into this world, it is a very nice, quick and easy way of producing them. It's so Zencastr, no E, because vowels are uncool these days. And that allows you to record sort of individual audio streams, and then you can do a much better job of editing, and it's just focused on sort of high audio quality. And another bonus of doing this is that it's another data point for you to find what's chiming well with readers, and use that to then go and create further content around that or look at other products that might work. Another area is this going to work? Branded videos. So before the pandemic, we were aware that the world was going more and more towards this visual world. And buildings are a very visual subject. So it does work well. For a while, we'd been outsourcing videography while we're sort of we're testing some formats, but we now have 2 videographers in-house. And we deliver a whole host of video services for clients now. One of the things we've been doing that's quite nice is a tour of buildings or building sites. So construction companies or property companies, developers or architects come to us, and we send out our videographers. We have someone from the editorial team that acts as a sort of presenter, and we produce a lovely punchy video that we then distribute as well. So it's again about providing more for our clients. And it goes down well with readers because people always love to see the inside of projects and what's happening in different schemes and different practices that different contractors and property companies are doing. And it grew out of the meetings with the news and the sales and the production team to try and identify new opportunities. And I think that really helps, not just with sort of creating the ideas, but then the kind of buy-in across the team if you've got that sort of one team mentality. And it just helps to sort of spark some creativity in the delivery as well. But it doesn't always go to plan, of course, this diversifying lark. And it's important to know when to quit, when it's not working. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Place Northwest development map. May it rest in peace. So we launched this at the start of 2020, which was bad timing, of course. This was one that was close to my heart, but it does just show that you have to let things go when they don't work. So we teamed up with a local mapping software company to create this 3D map of the Northwest to show investment opportunities and development opportunities, to show buildings that already exist and that are in planning permission, lots that are available. And the idea was that companies would pay to have their sites on the map, and then we linked to them in news articles as well. So it all seemed like a neat idea, and it's, of course, a strong bit of marketing for clients, helping them to sell their sites, and something interesting for readers. The pandemic rather took the wind out of our sails, but it also became clear quite quickly that you would need a certain threshold of sites on the map to make it really worthwhile, a sort of critical mass. And we struggled with getting that. So we gave companies, quite a few companies, sort of freebie sites to kind of populate it and get it going. And then we set about selling more. And it proved difficult to sell. And then because it was difficult to sell, there wasn't much on the map, which made it harder to sell. And I think you need to have it. It became quite clear quite quickly that I think you would need to have it as a fully populated map, constantly updated, because there are a lot of changes in the sort of property life cycle and planning applications and land use and building occupiers. And that all takes a lot of time. But then you can have companies sort of paying for premium advertising rather than paying just to be on the map. But we don't have the resource to deliver that. It wasn't profitable. And in the end, it was an experiment. It didn't take that long to come to that conclusion. And it didn't take all that much sort of time and input to realize that it just didn't work for our business. So we closed it down and we moved on. And that's an important part of diversification too. I think Mark was talking earlier about sort of, the power of being able to fail, but keeping light on your feet with some of these, I think, is really important, because part of the point is to make you less susceptible to risk. So you don't want to be stretching beyond your resources with this. And I think being honest with clients about, the clients that sort of come in early on some of these things, I think, you can be confident with this new idea, but keep it sort of short term, keep it kind of lighter at the start, and you need to have a plan for if it doesn't go to plan. You need to be able to shut some of these things down, because you don't want to end up with long-term commitments that you can't keep. It can all, of course, be easier as a small company, which we are, but if you can have that small company approach, for new projects, it really helps to sort of try out new things quickly before your competitors do, but then be ready to lose them and not be wasting time and energy on things dragging along that really should be killed off. So what next? So for us, this multiple platform, multiple service approach works well. We're not relying on events so much anymore. So God forbid if something else were to happen that would stop events happening, we'd feel much safer about it. And it's also had the bonus of turning us into a real sort of hub and community for the industry. There's lots of different ways for readers to keep informed and connect and engage with us and engage with each other and learn. And lots more chances for them to just come across us and be surprised and delighted about things that we do. So next, we're looking at other areas that we can monetize, sort of premium products, different markets, building up data. We've been using a journey tracking platform called Mouseflow, which is interesting, and just using our analytics more and making them go further. So if I were to sum things up, I'd say think about getting your eggs in different baskets. And people are used to, the public and businesses, readers, are used to spending in quite different ways now. The media and publishing models have sort of blown wide open, so it's a good time to try and make use of that rather than feel trapped by it. So think about the core elements of your brand that you can leverage. Think about different budgets that you can tap into. Think about any byproducts and how you can monetize those. And then test things out and be ready to abandon them when they don't work and move on to the next idea. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any questions. It's the post-lunch slump, isn't it? So.
Hiya. Just a very practical question. You said you're a very small organisation, 15 people, and you mentioned several platforms and quite a lot of technology joined up there to do what you do. How do you keep on top of that as an organisation? Is that with a partner? Is that through a single partner who manages all of those different things? Or do you have some crazy brain power within your organisation to actually support you in doing that? It's just very impressive with the variety of
Thank you.
things that you're experimenting with.
Yes, yeah. So it's a mix. We've got a sort of various tech platforms that we kind of work with that can help, but we don't have the biggest sort of tech stack. Most of that, I think, really comes from having a very fast-paced sort of culture as a company. We work to these, some of the team are journalists, and so that sort of, they've got daily deadlines, and we have a daily newsletter that goes out for Place Northwest every lunchtime. And so that culture of that very fast working has basically spread throughout the company. And we try and keep that culture. So there's a lot of sort of, keeping light on your feet and just fast work and fast sort of experimenting. One of the benefits of being a small team, of course, is that someone can have an idea, and within 5 messages on Slack, you can have a bit of a process for what you might actually do to get it going. So it's a bit of a combination, and having a network as well of we use some freelancers occasionally. We'll call on people to help out with things. That mapping software wasn't us. That was another company that did the actual mapping software, and we just worked with them on making it work for our readers. And yeah, I think that's it then. Yeah. Let off lightly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kirsty.